Hi, today we will try to build a ChatGPT-like interface where user can chat and system will be able to show the messages. Many business applications are providing this chat functionality where their customer can interact with their system. So of course they will call their APIs which will indirectly call AI services. But today's our focus is only on the UI side. How can you decorate this kind of architecture and how you can use this kind of functionality? So let me show you what we are going to build today. We will have a interface. Of course, you can add this kind of number of charts like a chat GPT, and you will have some kind of settings. And most importantly, you have an interface where user can start typing. So user will say, hi, what can I do? What you can do? You can do. And user will send message and there will be some random text generated for this demo. This is a part where you need to couple it with your own AI service or API service. And it will be like follow-up communication, second message, and there will be a response generated. And you can see we can keep going with this kind of like third message. And as you can see, we can provide this kind of functionality as well. Like user can have this kind of labels, actions, whatever you call it, for each communication message. Okay, so that's what we are going to build in step-by-step manner. And we will be using Angular 19 and Material 19 for this demo. So let's get started. So we will create a project first. I will use command ng ChatGPT UI demo. And let me increase the font size. I would like to go with a SAS styling. I do not want server-side rendering. And let it install the packages. I will just pause here. Okay, so we have our application generated and the npm package installed. Now let's open this into an editor. Okay, so we have our application open in editor. For this demo, I'm using cursor and we will be using its functionality. You can see how easy life it is now with these AI editors. I'm running the application. You can see the default output when you run the application. Let's open app component HTML and clean things and just put h1 chat GPT UI demo. And we have output here. Cool. Next up, we need to add material. So we will add ng add material and it will ask us a couple of questions. Yes, I would like to install the package. And let me close this. Material not found. Okay, let's go to the demo, get started. This is the right command. Let's add this command here. And yes, I would like this package. Theme, I would like to go with dark theme. So I would set up the typography and we are there. So now if I run again, let's go to the UI and we should see the font is changed. Perfect. Now let's add a toolbar. Let's go to application example and let's copy this and put it here. Let's go to the app component. We need to import tab module and icons. Icons are here. Recompile. We have our buttons here. I think we are missing button module, so let's add button module also. And looks better. And we need to import the styling. So let's take style also from here. And we have our application. Now, I would like to move the title from H1 to my heading here and let me remove this. Okay, so I got my ChatGPT UI demo toolbar here. Next up, I want the drawer, like side menu. When I click on this, I should be able to see the menu here. For that, I will use the side nav demo here. So if I go to example, I have this example here where I can click on side nav and it opens it. So before that, let's continue stashing our changes so that we can roll back, and let's take the mat drawer. If we go to my component, we need mat drawer. We need to import the packages. It needs show filter. So let's copy show filter here. And we need show filter here. Now no errors. I'm doing it faster because we are just trying to copy the standard example. Okay, so we have something here. The style is broken. Now let's copy the style also. And let's copy this. And we have a side navigation. The only problem is it's very small because we have width 500 and height 500. Let's make it 100%. And we got a full size window. However, if you notice, we are not able to distinguish between this side now. So what we can do is we can say width is 200 and let's put some background color. And it's too bright. Let's make it darker. And yeah, maybe a little bit more darker. Okay, so we got our sidebar sidebar working, but I don't want this button here. I want this functionality to be on this burger item. So what I can do, here is my icon here menu, and here I can just add a click toggle drawer. So now it should work from here. Perfect. That means I can take out this button. Nice. Let's test this change and we can start with the next one. So let's go and check our previous output and we can compare what we have to do. Now, if you notice, we have basic setup done. And what I will do, I will open the example of our target architecture. So far we have got toolbar, we have got side menu, and we're missing this functionality here. Okay. So now let's see the architecture. If you notice, what do we have here? Let me make it a little bit bigger. So we have this mat drawer contain, and inside that we have one component called active chat, and this is what where we show the active chat here. So we need an active chat component. Inside active chat, we have two components. One, message list, where we show all the messages, and another is the chat input, where user can type and send message. So first thing we need to do, we need to add active chat and message list and chat input. Let's start there. Okay, so let me add a new component called active chat, none confirm, and I needed a separate file. Let me see if I can take this out and try to add it again. Component active chat. I need to set up external template and I need to set up the style. So I need to enable it for this workspace and I need SAS one for this workspace. Confirm, and I got the right files here. Perfect. Now let's go here. We don't need router outlet. We are not using routing. So Let's import the component and let's import it here. And in HTML, here we can add active chat. So we should have the active chat works. Let me increase the zoom here so that you can see output. So we got the active chat works here. Now in active chat, we need two components, message list and chat input. Let's start with the chat input. Let's add another component here called chat input, none confirm, and we need to import this into our active chat. Yes, that's correct. And here we need the app active chat. So now we have active chat working. Cool. Now let's analyze what do we have in chat input. So if you notice, we are not using a text area or text input for this. We are using a div, and with the styling, we have converted this div into a text editor with a button. Okay, so you can see here we have this property called content editable true set, and we have some buttons here. Let's start one by one. So in this div, we need first one container, and that container will have editable window and a buttons. Okay, so in ChatGPT, you might have seen there are some buttons like send buttons, or is it a research, or is go to the internet and other. You can provide those buttons here. Okay, we can add some border here if you want, so that like solid px, something like that. So it's distinguishable. And yes, so let's start with the div here. So we go here and we add a div, and let's start with the simple text input so that you see what we're trying to do. So we got our input here. Let me make it a little bit smaller so that I can jump back and forth from code. So now what do we need? We need a div, and we will call this as a chat input container. And here I need a chat input container should have one div called, what should we call this? We should call this message input, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so let me put message input here, and it should be content editable. Content content editable is equal to true. Okay, and we need some styling here. So let's add a class message input. This is the part where CSS will make some magic. Let me add message input styling here with help of ChatGPT, and we got something here. Okay, so far what do we have? We got a div which is editable, and we can see it here. Here we can see we have this div here, and if you notice, there is some issue in the styling. So we have this mat drawer 100%. This div is here, this div is here, and this div is not, this is not enough. This is also not enough. There should be more width. Okay, so maybe 50%. Okay, that means in active chat, we need to increase width to 50%. So let's go to active chat, and we've set width to 50%, and let's compile and see output. Now it's good enough. Okay, so we got the input here, but height is issue. Let's change this height. Instead of 100%, we will say height as 100 pixel so that we can type something. And there is another issue that if you go to the next line, we are getting this issue now. So what can we do here? We need to update a style. We need to set overflow to auto, and let's see what happens here now. And it's not going out. Okay, so we got overflow to auto and we're able to type something here. Perfect. So what next? We can add some padding here, but it's fine. We will go it later. What is missing now? We need a button. Okay, let's go back and we need a button here. So where do we need button? So we got a one div where we have the input area and we need another div for buttons. Okay, so for this we will call this as a chat input action buttons. There can be many, so we will just start with one and let's go and try in TS file importing mat icon button, mat button, and we should have something there now. Okay, so we got a button here now, but they are not positioned properly. For that, we need to update our styling. So what we need? We need our chat input container to encompass both of them. So we need to update our styles. First thing we need to do is let's take chat input container and update its style to this one. So what did we do? We said it's a deflex direction column. We set some height and we set some border here, border radius, overflow hidden. So if we start again, we do not have any vertical scroll bar and it's not going anywhere. However, if you see this button is on the right side, left side, we need to make it on a right side. So what we can do is we can add another class here for chat button and our button is here. Or we can simply use some text as well, span, send, just is here. Or we can use simple button raised and this is like this and color primary. Actually we can use flat and it looks better now. Hey, so far so good. Now what do we need? We need functionality wise, okay, we can improve this style a little bit better, but let's not go in that right now. Next thing we need to do is whenever we click on send, we should be able to send the messages. Okay, let's do that in next section. Okay, so let's continue. What I can do is I can make it a little bit more beautiful by adding some more style here. And you can see it looks better now. What we're doing here is we just added some styling here and we wanted to go to the next section of adding messages. If you go to the end demo here, So what we have so far, we have the active chat component and we have the chat input here. If we can go here and verify it, we have got active chat here and chat input. So we are missing the message list. We need to create the component called message list. And if you notice, message list has two different types of component. One is user message here, what user types and sends, and another is assistant message, which is generated by the AI. So here you can see there are multiple components here. Each message is one component and they have a different component here. So this is a message entry. You can see here is an app user message entry. And if you go to the next one, the response to that, that should be the assistant message entry. Okay. So we need a three components now: message list, user message entry, and assistant message entry. So let's create those components. First is message list, and let's create that. Inside message list, we need another user message entry, and last component we need is assistant message entry. Okay, and where is our message entry? Here. So let's take this and we will add into the active chat. That means we need a div which will cover them. We will work on style. First, let's import the active chat component, message list component here in active chat so that we can see that it's here now. Okay, so we got a message list. Okay, so now as you can see, if we send message here, we are sending messages to the message list and it's updating. So now we have to talk about the data structure, how to organize data, how to pass data from parent to child. What we can do is active child can hold list of messages here and it will pass to the message list and it will handle add event from the input. Let me go here. So what will happen? We will have a new message from the chat input. In response to that, we will call an API that should return us the AI generated response and we need to show them. That means we need to keep one model here. So let's create a folder called models and we will call it let's say message entry dot ts export interface message entry and we will add it like contain, which is okay. So ID is a random ID we will generate. Content is what we are showing in the UI. Role user, because user is the one who's typing, and assistant who is the API generated, and the timestamp. So what should happen is here we should have a list of messages. Yeah, we can say like this. However, I don't want to have default messages. I would say this is a signal of message entries. And Y signal is a new syntax where I don't have to use the traditional zone.js changes here. So it's a new reactivity model. So what I will do, I will get these messages and I need to send these messages to the messages list. That means there should be a property called messages entries inside the app component. No, so not app component, message list component. And here, I don't want to use this one. I want input message entry, the new input signal, and it should import the related messages here, and we are good to go. Okay, so what we can do now, we can just run a for loop of message entries here, and we need to import. Okay, so now it's going to the next level. What happens is like my AI tool, it just auto completed it. So uh, we are expecting input message entry array, and this input array contains role, user and assistant. So when we are looping through in a for loop here in the message list, we will check the role. Is it a user or is it an assistant? If it is a user, we will show the user message entry component. If it is a assistant, we will show the or message entry. That means we need to add a input property in both of them. So let's do that. And let's see, input message entry, required package is imported. And let's do the same for assistant message component. And yeah, perfect. And in the HTML, let's put a div, and we will just actually, let's start small. We will just print out message entry component here. And we don't want this. We will just put on message entry component, and same for the user. However, it should be user. Okay. So what do we have? We have got all the errors resolved, and now we need to handle the events. Like, let's do one thing first. In the active chart, what we can do, we can try to add some random data and make sure it's working. So if we check the messages now, we have the message list component. There should be two elements. First is user entry, and next should be assistant entry. And this is how we define that one. So we had the role user, hello, how are you? And assistant, I'm fine, thank you. Okay, so this is just to make sure our structure works, the data passing works, and parent-child relationship is working. Let's dash these changes so that we don't have to repeat it. And now next section is where we have to handle actual inputs. Like we will send the data and we have to show it. Okay, let's start now. So now we need to handle the sending message. So let's go to the chat input. In chat input, we have a div where we are showing this text box, and we need to handle the sending message here. So we already have a selector here, message input. So let's create a view child reference for that. And let's create view child. I will make sure it's like well typed. So I will say it is HTML div element because I'm putting it on a HTML div, this one. So what I'm trying to do, I'm getting and hold on this div now. Okay. So I have got this one, and what I want is whenever user presses enter, I need to handle the message. That means I need to handle key down dot enter message here. Not just key down, but I can use dot enter. And here I will say send message, and I don't want this event to go further. So I will just try to stop propagation here, event dot prevent. Okay. That means I need to have this function defined. So let's go and define public void. And here I will just first say whether message I'm able to print that message or not. So let me go to console and I say hi. I press enter key and I can say hello here. Hello, and send button is not working. It's on the enter. So far it's okay. We will handle send button also. Okay. So we are able to read the message from the div. That's cool. And we have a send button. So on send button, all we have to do is call the click event. On click event, call the same message. So we are getting on send button also output and hello and key down also. As soon as we get this message, we need to pass this message to the active chat so that this array can be updated. Let me remove this mock data and keep the empty array here. Okay, so what should happen is there should be a message here from the output input that user has pressed enter or click on the send button, and we need to update our output here. Let me do it first. Sending part. So let me go to the chat input and define one output here. And I would say just message here. Message public message is equal to output, and it is of type message entry. Message. Okay, let me check our type here. Yeah, message entry. Not sure why it's not showing me here. Okay, and did it? Yes. So we got a message entry here, and we need to emit it. So ID here, ID should be auto-generated. So I will import it from not like this, but I will try to create ID from crypto, and this crypto is built in. So I will just continue this one, and message is the message I got. Role is user, which is hard coded because I'm in this chat input. And what should happen is I don't expect message here. I expect message to be coming from the div. Okay, that means whenever I send a message, there will be an output event on the active chat. So let me go to active chat, and here I will say update message entries. And here I will put a function public update message entries, and I will update my signal. So how to update signal? You have to call update method, and you select the previous data and you add the new one. Now let's try. What should happen now if I say hi, it should be shown as a component here. Hello. And now it's dynamic. Okay. You can see here, this should be a component from the app message user entry, multiple components. Okay. So the next thing we have to do is in real life, you will try to send this message to the API, and API will send you the data that you want to show it as an assistant entry. Okay, so let's test these changes so far. And now we need a service because we need to send it to the API. So we will mock it. We will call a chat GPT service, and this is going to be like a mock service. So we don't care exactly what to do there. All we can do is we can say a public method. Let's say, for example, public send message, and I would expect the message entry, not a string here, and we will return message entry only. message in. Okay. So now what should happen? Whenever we call this message, we will just return this hard-coded data. So let's go to active chat and we need to inject ChatGPT service here. Let's put read only in front of it. And what should happen is we have called ChatGPT send message service. We pass the message that we got here. We subscribe to the response and we update our signal again. But if you notice the send message here, we have said the role is assistant. Okay, so now if we save this and if I say hi, there should be two messages, one hi and one default message from the service here. Hi, hello, how are you? However, it will always send us the same response. But now we got two components. One message entry, user message entry and assistant message entry. Okay, that's cool. We can make it more fun. We can add some kind of random generation function here. Let's say like this. We generate random messages and we will call instead of content, which is hard coded, we will call this function. So now whenever I send some message, I get some little bit more response, not just hi, how are you? Okay, so it's just like a logic to generate random 2 to 4 sentence paragraph. Okay, so what do we have to do next? Next, we need to update style to show the message from user and assistant. How can we do that? Let's go and check our message list component. Here is our message list component. Here we have the two components, user and assistant. Sorry. So let's go and update the style for the messages. Let's start with user. So in user, we can see we have two classes. One is container and another is content. So let's add the class for container and display container style here. So what it should be doing? It should be like a 100%, and there should, let me change the background color to something else. Yeah, here. So we got a background color here for the user message, and we are setting the flex end here. Okay, so that we can see it. We can see this is going to be the right side here. However, this is 100%. We don't want 100%. So what we need is we need a subclass, and that is the content here. So let's take this content and let's add another here. And here what should happen is we need width as, let's say, 50%, and there should be style. uh, just 1 second, let me set the style properly here. I think we're doing this is wrong here. We shouldn't have this set item aligned and all these properties. We just need here display flex and flex end, and this message entry component should be 50% and rest is a color styling here. However, this is not going to the right, so let's set it to the right here. So now we have the right, and we can see there is a text here. Let me refresh and say, hi, how are you? And we get the output here. Now we need the same style for assistant. So let's go to assistant and put a here, but here this should be assistant and this is assistant. Let's see if they have the same class names. And yes, it works. The only thing is it's going on the right side because it's flex end, so it should be flex start, and this should be left right. And we got the messages here. What we need is different color. So let me change the color to something more dark here and little bit more. Yeah. So here we say hi, we have the output here. This is user, this is assistant, and there is no gap here. So I think we should add some gap here. What we can do is we have a couple of options. We can add the class inside the list itself. Message list here. We can add a message list container, and we got a gap here. So let's increase gap to, let's say, 20 pixel. So there we have this 20 pixel gap. Hi, and we have the little bit better styling here. Okay, now there are a couple of things that we need to address. First thing is, as soon as you send message, we do not have, we need to clean this one when you send it. Okay, so when you send it, we need to clean it. So let's go to the input component. When we send a message, we need to clean this one. So what we can do is uh, just so after emitting this message, what we can do, we can set its input to inner text to null. So now if I send message, is empty. That's perfect. However, if you notice, there is one issue here, styling issue. This input box should be always fixed, which is not. Right now, if you notice, I'm just looking at the message, but this is not fixed here. So let's address that. So for that, what should happen is uh, we need to make this input element fixed. And for that, we need a style called position fixed here. So let's update that. Okay, so let's make this fixed. As we can see, we have the issue here that input box is not fixed. If we check our layout in our active chat component, we have this container div which has two elements. That means if I go here in this host, I should say this is a flex layout and direction should be column because I want to show two columns there. And height, I would say, what is suggesting? I don't want background. Width, as we saw, we need 50% only. And height, maybe, let's say 80%. And as you can see now, I'm scrolling through and message input box is not moving. So it's fixed now. That's cool. Okay. What do we need next? Let's test the changes. Next is we need these action buttons, right? We need these action buttons. So let's create action buttons. Let's start with the user one. So in user entry, we need another component here. Let's say user reaction and confirm. Let's copy them, put into the import, and in the HTML, we put it here. so that after each message, oh, this one, after each message, we should see the reaction button works. We need to update our style, but it's here. So now let's go and update our style. So this should be flex, or we can say, yeah, let's say display flex and direction column. Maybe we need another one. Let me see the organization, what we did here. So this is inside message, it should be outside, and we have two elements here now. One is message and another is button. And for this one, we can add some styles. So what can we do here? We need to add style here. So let's add a one overlapping class here. Wait, and this class we need to create here. Okay, so what we did, we just said display flex and flex end, and that created this one. Now let's add buttons here. So here we need a div and some buttons. Mat icons, we say first is copy contain maybe, and second is edit or copy all. Let's see what is there. We need to import buttons, mat icon module, mat button module, and let's save this one and see how it works. And we can see we have two buttons here. Okay, we can add more, but for demo purpose it's fine. We can update style here, it's too close, so we can add some kind of margin or padding here. So let's say gap 10 and padding 10. Okay, same thing we have to do for assistant. We need to add another component assistant. Let's say component assistant reaction buttons, and here is more or less same. We need icons, buttons. In HTML we need some buttons here, so let's add it here. Maybe we need different thumbs up, thumbs down, and copy. Edit, not edit, but copy all. And we need to import this into our component and put inside another div and assistant button. Add a style for this one, and let's see what happens. Hi, and we saw we get these three buttons now. Okay, so if you notice the organization of components, here is the assistant entry, and assistant entry has another component here, reaction buttons. On event handler you can do the functionality, but here you get this one. Okay, next is some styling. We can add some more styling here. You can see that whenever we type something, it's not scrolling down, it should auto scroll to the down. There should be some typing messages, so let me add those stuff here. I will try to take it from another project. Okay, let me see. So what do I need? If I go to my assistant HTML, I have the div here, up span here to show the messages, and I want to show some animation here. Okay, first thing I want to do is I want to show the message here. Like if you notice the output here, first it shows generating with some animation, and then it shows the output with some animation. Okay, so first we need to add something like that. So what do we need? First we need, let's say, thinking is thinking, where we can say whether it is calling the API, and we can check the output there. So first thing we need to do is, let me copy this function from another project, which is called type message only here, and some variables that we need for that. Okay, let me put it here. And it should be in constructor and not in John init, because we are using signals. So we need to import effect, and message is, we are calling message entry. So there should be message entry here. And we need another function for clear animation. So let's take clear animation here. And what do we need here? We need another functions here. And not message, but this one. Okay. So there are no compilation errors. And here we need a display content, because we are not showing the actual message but the display content, and we need a class here. So let me replace it with this. And in CSS I need a thinking animation. So let me take thinking animation here. Now let's send something and check the output, then we walk through the code. Okay, so as you can see, whenever I send a message, and first it shows generating, and then it will generate output. So what happens? First thing we do is we have this is thinking signal. So is thinking in constructor, first we say if there is a message, we want to set it to true, and we set the text thinking generating. That's why we see the generating, or we can say thinking. Okay, so if you send something, it will say is thinking now, and then we have set timeout. When timeout is done, what we do is we get the messages. If you notice here, we have the animation added here for randomness here. So it's not showing you the message in one go. It shows like few words typed randomly like this. Okay. And there was a bug, I think. That shouldn't happen. And what do we have here is we call this content update here, display content update here on this random one. And that's it for this demo, I believe. Of course, we can extend this to a very nice one. Like you can see there is a scrolling issue. Like whenever you send something, message at the bottom, it doesn't auto scroll. That can be also handled. What we can do is, for that, we need to go into message list component. And in message list, we need to have this scrollable one here. And this should contain a selector for scrollable, and we should have a view child here, and that view child should scroll to the end of the message list whenever we go to the end. So what do we need? We need these functions here and import the messages, and that should be it. So now if you type something, it will just think for a few seconds, and it will show the output in typing. If you type something again, didn't work though, right? Okay, let's see the CSS wide. Do we need something here? hide scroll bar is there, and we have this one as well. Okay, so what else we can do? We can add another feature here. You can have this new button where you generate new text, new chat, and then we can pass this one. That's why it's active chat is a separate component. I think that should be it. It's almost 1 hour video, and I will break it down into small chunks so that you can continue from logical points. If needed, if there is a demand, we can add more functionality in this project, having actual interaction with the API calls and adding more features. But thank you for saying so much and have a good one. Bye bye.